What's up everyone, welcome back to the garage. I wanted to make a quick update to my how to restore your rubber with wintergreen oil video that I made a while back. Let's jump right in. I'm just going to have a look at these rubber parts on this carburetor that I softened. In less than 2 months, it's going to be 2 years since I softened these carburetor boots using wintergreen oil. The main thing that people usually ask me about this process is whether the rubber is still soft. So the short answer is yes. I'm going to pull these boots off the carburetor here and we can have a closer look at them. I'll share a little bit more information with you. And then also I'm going to address a couple of questions that some of my viewers had on the last video. And we're going to do another little experiment here and we're going to see if we can discover some more information about this process. So stick with me and we'll pull these boots off and have a closer look at them. So first of all, before I pull these off here, just to catch everybody up, I reconditioned these rubber parts and rebuilt this carburetor, put it on the bike and just used it to get the bike going because I wanted to hear it run before I completely disassembled the bike. So that being said, these haven't really been exposed to the elements, but they have been sitting on this carburetor for almost 2 years now. So let's pull them off and just have a quick look and see. They still actually smell like wintergreen oil. We'll just set this over here for now. So if you look at the thinner end, you can see they still have some give to them. Honestly, they have probably hardened up a little bit in the 2 years. Keep in mind, I still have the wintergreen oil. I mean, I can put these back in anytime for probably a day or 2 days max, and they're going to be right back to where they were before. Because I can always just give them another treatment, and they'll be good to go. So after the success that I had with the first trials softening up the carburetor boots, I decided to do some more tests using some of the hoses and vent lines and whatnot that I had removed off the carburetor originally, just to see the effect of whether or not they were 100% clean, whether that would make a difference in how well they softened up, and it did. For things like the drain lines coming off the flow bowls on the carburetor, they can stiffen up quite a bit. And while that might not be a big deal, if they do end up cracking, then you'll end up having fuel dripping all over your engine, which you really might not want. An alternative to just buying all new drain lines, which you don't even really see anyways, would be to soak them in the wintergreen oil. That way then you don't have to necessarily worry about them cracking, but you can save a little bit of money on replacing something that, you know, maybe just a day or two in the wintergreen oil would make them soft enough for them to be workable for you. And I mean, you can clean them before and after you do the wintergreen as well, and they do end up looking pretty good. My conclusion was you want to have anything that you're using the wintergreen oil on as clean as possible to get the best results. And the other reason why I'm mentioning this is because I accidentally left one of those short hoses in the wintergreen oil for quite some time, close to a month. I noticed that it had actually swelled slightly, but after a day or so, you return back down to the normal size. So there was no permanent effects of that, and it worked quite well. Next thing I want to do is test a question that somebody asked me in the first video, and that's whether or not just the alcohol itself would have softened the boot. So what I've done is I've gotten myself another carburetor boot here. It looks like somebody's painted it, so what I'm going to do is vapor blast all the paint off of it, and then I'll show you what it looks like after that. But it's solid, kind of like how these ones were before I did them. Let's get it into the vapor blaster. We'll clean all this paint off here, and then I'll show you what it looks like before I try it in some alcohol. Okay, so here we have it. It's been vapor blasted. Let's put it into a container with just straight alcohol in it. I have been checking this kind of regularly, and even though you can see the alcohol has changed color a little bit, the rubber really hasn't changed that much. I'll pull it out of there and we'll have a look at it. So I'm going to say it has actually softened up very slightly, but this is 4 days. This should be a lot softer than that. We'll check it again in a day. It's actually been a couple of days since I took this out of the alcohol. It still has a little bit of flex to it, but not very much. So I guess in a pinch, if you only had alcohol, you needed to soften up something like this that was rock hard, like how this one was. it might give you, you know, a small amount of flexibility if you needed it. So I'm going to continue using the Wintergreen oil on the rest of the rubber parts for the CB750 build. And if I discover any tips or tricks along the way, I'll be sure to share them with you guys. That's all for this one, everyone. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one.